let's talk about this. That 10-year-old, that if she did not get the abortion she needed, this is what would happen to her. Children in Middle Eastern countries are forced into pregnancy through SA. They are forced into it. And Middle Eastern doctors like Dr. Dyalchand says that their labors are 7 days long and more painful than in adults because their pelvic floor is not built to give birth. The fetus actually is too big for their pelvic floor, and the fetus's head would actually cave in and would immediately die in utero. And thus it also, see right here, it rips their pelvic floor, their vag, their rectum, and makes them leak fecal matter and urine for the rest of their lives, which they have to get many surgeries for. And we are heading this route in this country. They have to get surgeries for repair of their pelvic floor, their urethra, their vag, their rectum. And it also gives them pelvic inflammatory disease, which is painful, and it will make them infertile. Make them completely infertile for the rest of their lives. Lena Medina was forced to give birth, and she was impregnated at 4. If they hadn't have done the C-section, she would have never survived. And ever since then, she has been infertile. Why can't you people get that even though a child can have a period, their bodies are not ready for pregnancy, even if they were SA'd? Their bodies are not really ready until your brain is fully grown at 25 and your body's grown at 25. I was taught that in sex ed. I was taught that in biology. Common sense science. That's common sense science. And you're saying that it was murder for a 10-year-old to get rid of a fetus that would eventually cause this damage. This is what's wrong with your pro-life agenda. You're putting more kids at risk of being completely disabled and having their pelvic floor destroyed for your agenda and having to have surgeries to fix it. Hello, welcome to my page where scientific facts are your game. This here is a pelvic floor of a child of 10 years old. A 10-year-old can have a period. So can an 8-year-old, and I know a 5-year-old who had one. The 5-year-old is now 11 years old. Though a child at that young age can have a period, this proves right here, see that narrow pelvis and narrow cervix, is not mature enough until the age of 25 to have children. And our brains are not fully mature enough with critical thinking skills, rational thinking skills, or logical thinking skills to have a child and raise it properly until 25. A 10-year-old's brain thinks about toys, Barbies, not sex. They do not think about that. As I said, this is a real study. You can Google it. It's in India. We're becoming India right now and other Middle Eastern countries, forcing young women at this age, 10 years old, to give birth, even if they're SA'd. Her pelvic floor is too narrow. What happens is the fetus is too large in a child's body, and it presses down on the bladder too much, which it can collapse the bladder, by the way. It pushes down on the pelvic floor too much, where it rips the urethra, it rips the anus, it rips the vag. So as the fetus is obstructing the pelvic floor of the child while they're pregnant, damage is being done by being forced to give birth to this said fetus. So the fetus's head will eventually cave in and it will need to be removed via a C-section. And it will be stillborn anyways. So you're not saving babies at all like you think you do, that you think that's going to happen. You're just harming actual victims and actual children of CSA. And they have to have about 5 to 10 or maybe more surgeries to reconstruct the urethra, the rectum, and the vag. So this child will leak feces and urine for the rest of their lives being in diapers. So are you okay with that? I'm just saying. Then explain this. If a 20 to 40-year-old knocks up a 16-year-old, why, if that is found out, that they go to prison for being a sex offender? Why? Why? Because a 16-year-old and teenagers are children. They are children. They are children, and their pelvic floors are not fully developed yet until they're 25 or 30. It says right here, experts say the best time to get pregnant is between your 20s and 30s. You know why they say that? Because men and women are not fully mature until we're 25. You are wrong again. Experts and scientists disagree with you. Your late 20s and 30s is the best time to get pregnant because your body, as I said, your body as a woman or a man does not fully mature until the ripe age of 25. And any ages lower than that have a high maternal mortality rate. That's why teenagers need C-sections when they have babies, because their pelvic floor is not mature enough to have a baby naturally. Miss Bougie Butt, 17-year-old who is now 18, got a 14-year-old pregnant, and guess what? That pelvic floor of that little girl will not be the same after the pregnancy, like I described in all my videos. 14-year-olds even have too tiny of pelvic floors. My mom, at 19 years old, her pelvic floor was too tiny. 19 years old. She had to have C-sections. For me and my brother. So you are freaking wrong again. And you know what the term impregnation comes from? Oh yeah, that's right. From men impregnating women. If men kept their schlongs to themselves, women would not get pregnant. Teenagers would not get pregnant. Teen pregnancy has been around for ages. And guess who gets those teenagers pregnant? Those children pregnant. Oh, it's men in their late 20s or 30s or 40s because they want to wet their whistle. And then when they knock the woman up, the teenager up, they fucking leave. They do. They don't man up and grow balls and help raise the child. Some do, some don't. And that's why my state is ensuring that these men that knock up women have to pay child support at conception. And there are many men that would rather unalive the woman they get impregnated than pay child support because child support is considered slavery. When child support helps feed and clothe the child and gets them necessity things that they fucking need. Men cause impregnation. Women do not, because they cannot control their ovulation.